1, 2, 1, 2. Dezman Moses, Lauren Moses, Moses squared.
The athlete, the student, the culture. Welcome back to Moses Squared Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Brielle, with my co-host and brother, Dezman Moses. I hope everyone has had a good week and is ready to dive right into episode 2, Love and Basketball.
Welcome back, everybody. We just want to dive right into this week's episode, Love and Basketball. We're going to start off with love. Lauren, tell me what this WNBA deal with CBS means to you.
First of all, for those who don't know, earlier this week, WNBA and CBS Sports partnered for a multi-year deal, which means that WNBA is going to be televised on CBS Sports Network for 40 games, starting May 25th. So that's a huge deal because there's been a lot of conversation, especially I think in the Twitter world, of, equal pay for women's basketball, professional players. So getting this deal where they are going to be on a platform that kind of showcases their league is obviously different from the NBA, and people are always trying to compare. And I think this is the first step in the right direction to give women the equal opportunities that men have. Right.
And tell us this, because some people aren't clear and don't understand exactly what WNBA players make in comparison to even NBA players. It's substantially different. But these athletes, these women athletes, are great players and play at a really high level. Just talk about some of the compensation differences and what this will do to affect that.
Well, first off, you always hear about as soon as college players get to the league, they have that signing bonus. They have that, $5 million deal. I don't know the exact number for men, but for women, it's, $120,000 a year.
Right. Wow. And
they wake up just as early as the men do. Right. They play less games. Their season is shorter, but you're playing at a professional level. This is what they do for a living. Right. So much so that, they can't just play in this league and be fine. A lot of women are playing overseas. Breanna Stewart, she just got injured. She used to play at UConn. She just got injured playing overseas, doing her second job because here, she's probably one of the top WNBA players, but she's not the highest paid WNBA player. Right. Maya Moore's and your Candace Parker's, they're your highest paid, but they're still only getting top 120.
Wow.
So it's a huge discrepancy, and it's something to be talked about. And honestly, the Players Association for the WNBA this year has really made their voices heard. NBA players have been coming in and talking about it as well. And it's something that needs to change. And I think this being televised is going to be the next step for them.
Yeah, I think across the board, it's important for young women to be compensated for the amount of work they're putting in, because like you said, these women are putting in the time, they're putting in the work. And, fortunately, I got to travel and follow your journey as a female athlete and watch you play AAU and college basketball at the highest level. And I've seen these young women play and have been as impressed with them as any young man, so it's something that definitely needs to be talked about, because, if we can, pay out these large, ridiculous, NBA and NFL and whatever contracts, we need to support each other. And I think it starts with the athletes, the male athletes supporting the female athletes in their journey, in their battle, because it's all of our battle. And shout out to CBS for making this connection, and it'll grow the exposure nonetheless. If people can see the talent and it's more accessible and people can turn on their channel and not have to have a special package or a special channel to tune in, it'll definitely help the game grow in a large way. And I think it'll move to endorsements and balancing that pay compensation for sure.
Yeah, and I also think it's important to point out the fact that, for the game of basketball and any sport that you love, you always hear women's basketball isn't as entertaining as men's basketball. They don't dunk, they don't do this. But at the end of the day, when you love a sport, you're going to support it. And I feel like for athletes in general and, mostly men's basketball players, you would never hear them saying, "Oh yeah, women's basketball isn't entertaining."
Right.
Yeah, they might not show up to our games,
Right.
but
Right.
but they're, it's the game, it's the sport, it's what you love, and so you're gonna watch, you're gonna tune in, especially NCAA, March Madness, all these crazy
100%.
things. But for a huge national market to put their commitment into WNBA. I'm a huge fan. I was very excited when I got the news because their games were barely televised.
Mm-hmm.
If they were on ESPN Plus,
Right.
which you have to pay for.
For sure.
So, young girls looking up to these WNBA players, they don't have money to do these things. Their parents might not have the funds to do it as either. So, little things like that you just have to just look out for, especially when you're talking about equality among sports and athletics.
It's huge. And speaking of the group of people that really should be helping them and working towards this goal, we're going to transition into some NBA talk. One of the best matchups I've seen in a long time. One of the most talked about matchups that we've seen in a long time. Dame Lillard and Westbrook. What do you think about this back and forth? Well, it's over now. I think Dame had the last word. That's for sure.
he definitely had the last word. Waved to him and everything.
Goodbye.
He said it's done, period. No, what a series that was. I mean, it was kind of to be expected, though. Like, Lillard isn't like, some bum that just shows up randomly.
No.
And obviously Westbrook, someone who is always in the public eye, whether it's for his game or crazy stuff that he wears or what he says to fans. Like, he's always in the public eye. But if we have to choose, was that your question? Do we have to choose which one?
Who are you going with in that matchup?
That's so hard. I don't want to pick, but I say Lillard only because of, he left it all out there.
Right.
He came in underdog, not in his head, of course, but to everyone else, he's underdog. He comes in there, he shuts everyone up. He handles business. And I mean, the last game of the series, you got to go out hard.
Yeah.
Like, there's no holding back. And for Westbrook, someone that has always just on go 24/7, it was exciting to see him, get piped down a little bit.
Well, here's my stance on it. And I'm a huge fan of Westbrook, and, I'm a huge fan of Dame because Dame, we have some connection in his people. But Dame Lillard was the example of competitor and respect and sportsmanship, and it paid off for him because it was huge. The way he responded with class, he didn't have to say much. He didn't have to do the extras. He didn't have to rock the baby after every bucket.
Yep.
He didn't have to act a fool in press conferences. He went out there and handled his business on the court, and when it was time, all they had left to do was talk. And it was the post-game exit interview, and it was a bad shot. That's all you had to say was it was a bad shot. So for that guy, Dame, man, he stepped up. It was huge. I enjoyed the entire series, the back and forth. They never backed down. He's an Oakland boy. So they understand it. Two dogs going at each other, but the good dog got the best of that match there. I like young Dame Lillard. I think that was a breakout for him. It showed the world what type of player he is. And McCollum, he's no slouch either.
Oh no. And that's what I kind of think about, especially with both the series between Lillard and Westbrook, and then Lou Williams and Warriors.
That's another great
series. Exactly. Both two teams who are kind of the underdog, but they got a chip on their shoulder.
Right.
They're not laying down and just, letting all the rah-rah kind of get to them. They're going at these, all-stars, these champions. And especially for Warriors in a time where there's a lot of talk about the different roles on the team being shaken up a little bit, and
right.
Some players not feeling comfortable. And, no, it doesn't matter. Lou Williams is that dude, as Daddy would say.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing out of his mind right now. It's unbelievable, the finishing, the scoring that he's doing. He's looking like a top scorer in the NBA.
Against Durant and Green.
Durant. I mean, there's no flinch in his game. He doesn't bat an eye. Every single possession, if he has to, he'll go get it, make tough shots repeatedly. And both games they've won, it fell strongly on his shoulders. He had to go and carry the load, and he pulled it out late when it mattered for him. Huge shout out to Lil Will. Plus, he's just a real one. You can't not like Lil Will.
Oh, yeah. And not to mention, he's moving slower these days.
Right.
I'm looking at these highlights, and I'm like, The thing is, all his fakes are on point.
Right.
Like, his fakes are slow, they're methodical, they really, like, lull you to sleep a little bit, and then he goes. But I was noticing he's not moving as quickly as he used to, but he's getting the job done.
It's more precise. His game is much more precise. He can shoot jumpers from anywhere on the court. I mean, it's impressive. Nobody's finishing right now better than him than, I would say, Dame Lillard, but he's outside of his mind. Both of those players are playing at super high levels, and it's really great to watch. It's really great for the game to see guys play and really be competitive. All of the friendly stuff and the pat your competitor on the tail stuff is out the window. The dogs are in right now, and it's good to watch. It's great for the game. The Giannis's, they're not here to make friends. They're here to win games, and as a competitor, I truly enjoy this style of play. You never know what to expect any night of the week, and that's how it should be.
Yeah, I think coming off of that March Madness high, I'm like, oh, college basketball. You really like that grit and the grind that college athletes play with. But this playoffs, like this first round has been tough. People have been going at each other's necks.
Real tough.
I'm thoroughly surprised, and I'm excited because I was very upset once March Madness was over. So there's a lot more to talk about there.
Let's actually recap the NBA because we have a 4-0 sweep in the East, Milwaukee, Detroit. Yeah. We got another 4-0 sweep, Boston, Indiana. 4-1.
That was going to happen.
Philadelphia over Brooklyn, and then 4-1 Orlando. Toronto over Orlando. What do you think about the East? That was pretty one-sided. It seems like there are clear top 4 teams that sit atop the East.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that throughout this season. Who's really messing with the Bucks? I mean, Boston's defense has been top one. They've shut down the one who said he was unstoppable,
right.
Joel Embiid. I was just arguing with my uncle about that over brunch on Easter because he says Joel Embiid is unstoppable, which he's a great player.
These are the type
Don't
of
hold
arguments
him for that.
That we have at our family dinners and gatherings. It's about sports.
It is, and it was
debates.
recorded on Instagram.
But I think Boston will give Milwaukee a run for the money. I think Kyrie is, shout out Kyrie, he's a Jersey boy as well. But I think Kyrie is always in his zone when it's playoff time. He's one of those top competitors who really takes the challenge of the playoff. He has the Mamba mentality and so forth. He takes on a challenge like this. I think with the number 1 seed coming, for him, he's going to feel like an underdog. What type of player, what type of series do you expect from the Kyrie?
I expect him to step up because he always does during this time, and it makes me so mad to watch him during the regular season because I'm like, where are you at? Like,
it's different. Sometimes it's different play. I mean, I think he has levels playing with LeBron. He's learned to kind of gauge his play. He works it. He almost tests his teammates during the season. He'll check out on them.
I can see that. I can see that. Okay.
Let's see what y'all do without me. That type of thing, which is somewhat petty, but we know that Kyrie could be described as petty from time to time. Nonetheless,
Definitely.
His game is the real deal. And, in the fourth quarter, in the playoffs, he's a guy that you want on your team for sure.
But before we even move forward to the next round, Warriors and Clippers, they play tonight.
Who you got tonight? If you had to put your money on it.
That's a tough question. I'm going to say Warriors because they always seem to figure things out at the best time possible. Luck is always in their favor. They're a good team. I really would like to say Clippers, but if I had to put money on it, I'm going to be smart and use my brain and say Warriors. How about you?
I would have to agree with you there. I think that Golden State's one of those teams, organizations, even when they have turmoil, even when guys aren't getting along, which they have, and it's part of being a team, as we both know, they just have so much firepower and talent on their side. I can't expect Lou Will to have a night like he had the past few nights, and it's just hard to sustain that on one man's shoulders. They have 4 stars, so no one man has to play great. Literally, can come out and shoot the lights out, and the game could get out of hand really quickly. So you can never bet against Golden State. But what do you think about this Houston Rockets Utah series? I thought it would be a little bit closer.
I think
It's 4-1 Rockets.
The Rockets are just a little bit too much for them. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't really been keeping up with Utah this year, but when I look at the Rockets and you look at Harden, like, who's stopping him?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, he's a scorer, but he hasn't shown me the clutch button yet. In the playoffs, we've seen him fade.
Emphasis on the
yet. We've seen him get cold when it really matters, and that bothers me.
Okay.
I like a guy like Kawhi Leonard to always win and always have a chance to win a championship because he's cold-blooded. He's truly cold-blooded. I mean, we talked about his face doesn't change. He's a machine, and he does it night in, night out, playoff, no playoff. If he's on the floor, he's going to get 110. James just doesn't play enough defense. Harden goes to sleep sometime on defense, and that could change the game.
He doesn't, and that bothers me too. Yeah, and I mean, in the NBA, what is defense really? But I think when you are just not even trying on the defensive end, it just makes you look really bad. And I remember even earlier in the season, LeBron James had a clip. He was literally just standing in the middle of the paint for 30 seconds.
It's not good basketball.
So, but no, I mean, it's not good basketball. But speaking of another matchup, you talked about it already, but Sixers and the Raptors. Second round.
I think the Sixers will have their hands full. Kawhi Leonard, man, I truly believe in him. I like his game. It's so solid. It's just old school basketball. I mean, it's, pump fakes. It's dribble drives. It's, improve your shot. It's
back to the basics.
It's play defense really hard, get steals, contest. Everything about the game, every aspect of it, he does it the right way, and he does it really hard. And he seems to be a heck of a teammate. I never see him have a riff. He just always seems supported. He's always there on and off the court. He's always in the right position. So Sixers, I just don't know. They have some young players. Ben Simmons, he just still can't shoot. You have to have a basketball shot in the basketball game. It's difficult to score points. As much value as passing is, to score, you have to put the basket, the ball in the basket. But I'm laughing, but I'm serious. Embiid is an excellent talent. Once in a lifetime, 7'3" with ability to stretch the floor, shoot the shot. But I think I like Toronto in this matchup for sure.
And I think anybody that's listening will kind of understand where me and my brother are coming from. We clearly like players who aren't arrogant. Right. and that like really sets the bar high, surprisingly, because a lot of your superstars, a lot of your all-stars are arrogant. They're great players on the court. Don't get me wrong.
Very true.
But just like the players that we talked about, Lou Williams and Dame Lillard, like, they're not players who are going to be all rah-rah in your face. They're going to let their game speak for them.
Right.
And they show up when it truly matters.
Yeah, it's easy to
like. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, it's easy to like a guy who plays the game the right way, plays it hard, and respects the game, because it's been a lot of people to do this before all of us, whatever sport you're playing. So that's somewhat a respect to them. But speaking about players and young players, we got the NBA draft coming up. Who's your top 5? We have some awesome young players in this draft, some guys who really could come in and make a difference on the NBA level really quickly. Tell me real quickly, who's in your top 5?
Okay, so first pick of the 2019. No, it's like, I'm kidding. So I have Zion going first. Zion. I mean, I don't think that's a surprise to anyone.
Who would you compare his game to?
How about we do this? First of all, to answer that question, I don't compare Zion Williams' game to anyone. There's literally no one who I could think that plays like him.
Okay.
Because, and people will say, okay, maybe LeBron, but like my thing is, at a college level, this man plays from tip-off to the end of that buzzer, no matter what the score was. Absolutely. No matter if they were blowing somebody out by 40 or if it was a 1-point game.
100%.
He's so explosive. It makes no sense, but like he's so explosive for 40 minutes.
Right. It's no fatigue in his game. And you're right. You may be a little too young for this comparison, but people compare him to Charles Barkley. And I think that's a pretty solid comparison because Charles Barkley was a little bit undersized and really athletic,
Yeah.
not this athletic. This kid is a different breed, and I think, like you said, the energy that he has on the floor and the talent, just, you can't teach that type of explosiveness at that weight, that size. That's God-given. But
Yeah.
there's another young guy out there who's not nearly as big but has a lot of bounce in him, and that's my number 2 guy, Ja Morant. He's a small school guy. Tell me what you think about his game.
Small school guy, but he plays with a lot of heart.
Yeah.
He plays like he has Duke on his chest, or he has, one of the Big Ten schools on his chest. He doesn't bow down to anyone. I'm just upset with myself because I wasn't aware of this player until March Madness. But it's crazy that you put him as 2, so I'm guessing you have Zion as number 1.
Zion's number 1, but this kid's a strong candidate for number 1. I just think the Knicks can't go without picking Zion Williams. I think the city of New York will go crazy. But Ja Morant was compared to a guy like Allen Iverson. That was the comparison, a taller Allen Iverson, and I think that's a heck of a statement, because we'll have to really see what type of, energy this guy can give for 40 minutes in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because Allen Iverson was a guy who did it night in and night out at 6 foot. I mean, I don't even know if he was 6 foot, but he did it at an extremely high level, a scorer, a difference maker in the game. If he can live up to that level, I think his career will be long and prosperous.
Oh, definitely. But you had him at 2nd. That's kind of making me rethink my 2nd pick, which was R.J. Barrett.
Ooh. I got
who
RJ
kind of
number
reminds
3.
me of. You have him 3? Okay. So he kind of reminds me of DeMar DeRozan a little bit.
Okay.
I think he has a pretty good upside, but I don't know. I'm still unsure of how he's going to do on that next level just because he's not the best finisher. He gets to the basket extremely well, but finishing like 53%, I don't know. Like
DeMar DeRozan. Now, that's a strong – I have a lot of respect for DeMar DeRozan's games. First off, they're both lefties. DeMar's a lefty,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But DeMar can flat out fly. If you're talking about athleticism, he's one of those guys who can really elevate. And I have yet to see that out of R.J. Barrett. He's a long guy. I mean, he's okay, but
nothing crazy,
I
but
haven't seen that type of athleticism. Not that type. But nonetheless, I think he's a well-rounded player. I think he has a great feel for the game. His godfather is Steve Nash, so he's been around the game for a long time. And
extremely smart. I think he's an extremely
his
smart
IQ
player.
is off the chart, so that always makes a difference.
As well for Zion.
Yeah.
We got to go back to Zion. We didn't talk about him enough.
Yeah, let's back up to Zion.
as if ESPN hasn't talked about him enough. His passing is so underrated.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember early in the season he made a full court bounce pass similar to what he did in March Madness or during March Madness.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wait, can we not get a replay of that? Like,
Yeah.
The dunk was amazing. Don't get me wrong, but the way that he just puts the ball in the perfect places for his teammates, and he's willing to pass.
Right.
Like, a player like that doesn't really have to pass, but he's willing to pass, and he knows the strengths and weaknesses of his teammates, and he never puts them in uncomfortable situations.
Right. If he was to say something to work on his game, what aspect of his game would be an area where he could improve to help at the next level? Because he has a ton of strengths, and that's undoubted. You watch this guy play, you can see he's an NBA talent, but what part of his game can really be improved to make a difference right now at the next level?
That would be something I would have to look at tape or look at film of right now and kind of pick apart, just because I feel like I haven't seen him play in a little bit.
Right. And I have something in mind. I think jumping off the top of my mind is his jump shot. Right now it's a little more set, and because he's so explosive, I think he'll have an opportunity to still shoot somewhat of a set shot.
So jump shot and dribbling into a jump shot, or
I would say jump shot and dribbling under control, because he's so big and strong. The NBA is, guys are going to be trying to jump in his way, and if he can't, truly come to a controlled jump stop, he'll always be in foul trouble. Just 280, it looks bad when you run into a guy. You got shoulders like kids' heads. So it's like when he's running into guys, it looks bad if he's not under control. So I think that aspect is important. Being able to have a jump stop floater, he'll be unstoppable because, once you don't know and you're in between, you're going to end up on a poster, period.
Makes sense. So we have Zion at 1. You have Ja Morant.
Ja Morant number 2.
2. I have RJ Barrett 2. You have RJ Barrett at 3. So who do you have at 4? With Chicago Bulls.
Chicago Bulls. I actually like Bol, the kid
from Oregon?
Bol from Oregon.
That's interesting because he didn't even make it past Christmas. He was injured before Christmas even came around, and that's a huge concern because you got to be able to play. Like you can't. Yeah. And he's so tall. There's obviously things like that can happen when joints and other things just aren't regular size. But
he's a super talent. I think he has a ton of skill, and like you said, he's undersized. But with even if he couldn't play right away, i.e. Joel Embiid or these other guys who got some time to be in the NBA to develop their body, to eat, as a pro, to live as a pro. For a guy like him with an exceptional ceiling, it could only help. Even time could help. He's so young, it wouldn't hurt him at all. So that's why I like that for them. I think they have a great young nucleus in Chicago. And, he would add on to that. Plus he has legacy. His father was in the NBA, and it just has an effect to have that legacy. You have a different mindset as a player and approach to the game, to being a pro. He's somebody that the Bulls could use and for some years to come make a difference.
It's a good pick. Makes
Who's
sense.
your number 4? Who you got?
Okay, so my number 4 is Jarrett Culver, Texas Tech.
Okay.
I think it's a reach, not gonna lie, but I think he brings a lot of good things to the league. I didn't even realize how tall he was. He said he's 6'6" guard. But I think everyone kind of noticed during their run in the tournament that he is a flat out scorer. Like he gets to the basket, doesn't have a huge 3-point shot in his game right now, but the pull up from mid range is lethal. Lethal. He does a really good job on defense, making his get players off balance, and he's just quick. He moves really good laterally, and I personally think he could do some great things in the NBA.
I like him. I like this player, Jarrett. My only issue with Jarrett Culver is his scoring woes. He gets into, I've seen some games late in the tournament where he just had 3/4 of a game where he did nothing, offensively, and it's tough to be an NBA threat. And to do that consistently, not score, because the game is such a high-scoring game. Yeah. And as good as the defender as he is, you still have to be able to score the basketball, and especially consistently. If that's what you're labeled, you have to do that night in and night out, and to go a half or 3/4 of a game and not score is tough for me. But there's a guy that I'm putting in my number 5 that a lot of people probably don't have this high, is the kid Dawkins from UCF. This guy is not as high on some people's radar, but I think he's going to be a guy who we watch for a long time. A Jefferson type guy who has an 18, 19-year NBA career, because this guy, he's a professional, and I got a chance to watch him really closely. The story was the 6'7" kid who was a man amongst boys. But to watch this guy who was just physically fit, 6'7", could run, jump, score, understood the game, was always in the right position, and was a coach on the floor. So he was an extension of his coach out there. Those type of guys, you can never have enough of.
Yeah, no. He's a great player. So you had him at 4.
5. That's my 5. Yeah, Bobo's
okay.
at 4.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so my 5 is between, I couldn't choose, is between DeAndre Hunter from UVA.
Okay.
Or, I don't know how you pronounce his first name, but his last name is Hachimura from Gonzaga.
Okay. I like his game.
So I like both of their games. They're I don't really know how to describe Hachimura's game though, because I remember the first game I saw him, I was like, it's different because not super athletic, but he gets the job done. Like he
Right.
gets in between defenders. He gets to the basket. That game against Duke, he has a 3-point shot. It's just like his game is just so. It's so nice to watch because it's like he's out there just playing. He doesn't even look like he's working hard. He's just gliding by dudes. But DeAndre Hunter is another force to be reckoned with because above all things, he's a leader. I think he leads by example with his game.
Okay. Well, I think that's huge then. Me watching his game, he's physically, I love his style. I think how big is he? 6'7"? 6'7". I mean, he plays much bigger. He looks physically fit. He looks the part out there. I just would love to see him. You know me, I'm all about the dog and about, really attacking. He seems like a nice kid, and there's nothing wrong with it. But, I want to see that animal come out because I think it would take his game to the next level. I mean, he's imposing physically, even as an opponent, to look at a guy like that, your night's going to be a long one. But he has
I definitely
to know
agree
that he can attack and really just break somebody's will, because if he does and plays at that level with his athleticism and his strength and power, he could take over a game and really change the tone of any game and help a team tremendously.
And I think that's what I like the most about his game is that he really uses his strength.
Right.
With every rebound, he uses his strength to grab the ball with 2 hands. He uses every bit of strength in his arms. It's like he knows the power that he has and he uses it. And I think even with fatigue, sometimes a lot of players won't really rely on that. But to him, it's just like 24/7. It's just like, I know I can go get that. And he getting rebounds over, 6'5" dudes. Like,
for sure. That's part of it, and I think you're right about that. That type of young man, it's clear that he's put in the time and the effort on and off the court for some time. Let's take a step back and talk about some keys to success. For an athlete like him, he's a perfect example and perfect segue into this next portion, talking about keys to success. As an athlete, as a student, what are some of those keys to success that help you achieve goals that take 4 or 5 years to reach?
I think first and foremost is what you just said, making goals. Writing them down, sticking to them, speaking them into existence, and not being afraid to have big goals like dreams and pushing yourself towards those things and keeping them at the forefront of your mind every day. I mean, in college, my biggest goal in college was to help my team get to the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And every year was like, dang, we haven't gotten there. Like, what needs to change? What do I need to start doing a little bit differently? And that's just me as a leader thinking that. But I think as individuals, you have to critique yourself. You have to be aware of your mistakes, aware of areas that you can get better, and then not be afraid of change.
Right. Adapting. You're right. And I think planning is number one, having a goal and then making a plan. To not have a plan for your goal is to say you're taking a trip from New Jersey to California and just head west. You'll get there at some time, but to do it most efficiently, you must have a plan. You must map it out so that you can get there as efficiently as possible. And for athletes, one of the greatest things and one of the greatest parts to getting success is being able to adapt those plans, because we all have goals and they shift sometimes. For myself, 2 years at University of Iowa, I had to transfer. There was a period where I said, man, my goal is still the same, to be a pro athlete, but in order to achieve my success, I think I need to make a tough decision. I think I need to transfer. So I had to adapt, and it worked out for myself. But, for you young athletes, don't be scared of the change. Embrace it and do it well. Learn how to do it well, because it'll be part of your success.
And I think also making, 2 separate plans. There's 2 separate goals, because you should have your goal for your life and also your goal for as an athlete, because everyone's been saying, more than an athlete. And for us, I think we both had a time in our careers where we had to tell ourselves, hey, we're human. We're regular citizens like other people out here. Although being an athlete was a part of our identity, we're so much more, and we have so much more to offer. So having those goals outside of that, allow you to learn a lot about yourself through change. For myself, not playing professionally, that was always a goal for me as a kid. I
Right.
always wanted to play basketball at a professional level, even freshman year in college. However, those things didn't turn out that way, injuries, things like that. I just felt like I had another path that I was
Right.
supposed to be, seeking out. And
But
for
it's
me,
part of
being
your story.
religious, exactly, and me being religious was part of that. Having those conversations, and asking what is my purpose? What should I be doing next? I kept hearing the word change, 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 and I knew that this basketball thing playing wasn't a part of that anymore. And so I started to create opportunities for myself, and like you said, being able to adapt. And I realized one day, how much work I put into playing basketball, how much time,
Sure.
all those long nights, early mornings. If I did all that to be an athlete, no one can tell me different that I can't put that exact effort. If I put all of the effort that I put into basketball, I could do anything.
Right.
And I think I could be successful and excel in the most humble way possible, but I know what it takes to, to work.
Right.
And once you have that competitor type of mindset, I think, going into the workplace or going into whatever field that you want to pursue and being a competitor and wanting the best for yourselves every day, that changes a lot.
Yeah. And you know what? As your big brother, that's one of the many things I love about you and truly admire about you. We all go through these different things, and it's part of our journey. Our experiences make us who we are, and we love exactly who you are and who you've become. But I just
Appreciate
wanted
that.
to end the show off on that way. It's beautiful for you young athletes and young students, whatever you're aspiring to be, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a preacher. It's about putting your all into it and using that same type of competitor and using that same spirit to ignite and to fire you through any and everything that you deal with. Life is about attacking things and conquering tasks. So that's one of the beautiful things about being an athlete is it teaches you to go after the things you want, make a plan, set your goal, and go get it. We appreciate you guys tuning in to Moses Squared Podcast. Stay updated on the podcast. Follow me at Twitter and Instagram at Dezman M, Dezman M.
And you can follow me on both Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, I can be found at Lauren.Brielle with 2 E's at the end. And on Twitter, Lauren_Brielle with 2 E's at the end. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Moses Squared Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. And if you have any recommendations or questions you may want answered, be sure to tweet both me and Des on Twitter, finishing it off with #MosesSquared. God bless and see you next week.